4 days after the death of the dictator of Iran, political observers and media around the world are reviewing and assessing Khamenei's record of governance. The report we are about to see is an overview of the devastating impacts of 4 decades of Khamenei's rule on the economy, environment, culture, security and society of Iran.
اما خبر فوری داریم. دقایق پیش تایید شد علی خامنه‌ای در حملات اسرائیل کشته شده.
باید خون گریست در جامعه اسلامی که حتی احتمال کسی مثل بنده در او مطرح بشه.
به اسم خودم و اسم مستعار در مجلات چاپ کرد.
پیام دقیق به ما رسیده است. خفه می‌کنیم.
دشمنان ما بودن، اما دشمنان بی ضرر و بی خطر، هیچ ضرری نداشتن.
حالا 4 تا خط و خاشاک این گوشه ها یک کاری میکنن، این رودخانه زلال ملت
به نظر آقای رئیس جمهور به نظر بنده نزدیکتر است.
موازنة حزب الله ومعاشاته ومصاريفه وأكله وشربه وسلاحه وصواريخه من الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران.
ما پیشانی و بازوی راهان مدبر و هوشمند و جوانان شجاع فلسطین رو میبوسیم.
تا 25 سال دیگه چیزی به نام رژیم صهیونیستی در منطقه وجود نخواهد داشت به فضل الهی.
این جمعیت که شما میبینید فقط برای یه قطعه به زهراه، گوشه به گوشه خانواده‌ها داغدار شدن، این همه آدم عزادار شدن.
ورود واکسن آمریکایی و انگلیسی به کشور ممنوعه.
شما رو قبول ندارم.
ما اگر 100 تا نیروگاه هسته‌ای داشته باشیم اما غنیسازی نداشته باشیم به دردمون نمیخوره.
ده 96
متحرک سلمیه چرا چیز میزنی؟ بچه خاکت نبردن، آبت نبردن، گوش کن.
حالا یه سیلی دیشب به اینها زده شد.
فرزند ایران و جان فدای میهن. تیر خورده. قاتل اعظم فرزندان ایران و نابود کننده ایران کشته شد. علی خامنه‌ای دیکتاتور تهران.
My colleague Morteza Kazemian is here in the studio. Morteza, this report was just the headlines of a historical period that Iran has gone through over the past 36 years of misery, misfortune, destruction and darkness. Tell us more about what legacy Khamenei left behind. How do you see these 36 years? If I were to summarize the last words at the very beginning, Khamenei can be described with two concepts: action against national security and gross violation of human rights. Ali Khamenei's record is filled with these two issues. A gross violation of human rights is not just limited to the suppression of opponents, summons, arrests, executions, and the killing of citizens in the streets. A gross violation of human rights occurs in practice when the livelihood of workers, retirees, and employees in various fields lessens, when young people cannot continue their education, when the youth of the country cannot find employment, the most basic welfare facilities are denied to millions, if not tens of millions of Iranian citizens. This is where a violation of human rights has occurred. And the peak of this gross violation of human rights is precisely where we witnessed in mid-January on the 18th and 19th that in just a few hours, in less than 10 hours, tens of thousands of Iranian citizens were targeted by gunfire. This gross violation of human rights is intertwined with the same actions against national security. Why actions against national security? Because, and it's interesting to note, that this accusation of actions against national security is precisely the accusation that has been directed at journalists, political activists, civil society activists, and human rights activists throughout Khamenei's 36 years of rule. However, the biggest threat to national security and Iran's national interests has been Ali Khamenei himself, due to the policies he adopted, his delusions regarding the destruction of Israel, and his nuclear projects with military intentions, the dimensions of which is now being reported by Steve Witkoff and which Arakchi has clearly acknowledged. Besides this, there are the activities of Khamenei's forces in the region, all of which has had dire consequences for the nation, both in terms of the degradation of its wealth and resources. Let's not forget that the issue of nuclear energy alone, directly and indirectly, has cost more than $2 trillion, according to expert estimates, in relation to cost, to the sanctions, and what was plundered. This was effectively an action against national interests, apart from the sanctions and the war that affected the country during the 12-day war and the current war. We also need to add this to what has happened in the region. Khamenei's militia have marginalized the position of the Islamic Republic in terms of geopolitics, and now Iran is in such a position where Turkey has gained the upper hand and the Arab countries in the region have gained the upper hand. So if these aren't actions against national security and national interests, then what are? To summarize, Khamenei's record is truly intertwined with crimes and gross violations of human rights and actions against the security and national interests of Iran. We know that the country's administration in these 36 years has not been based on rationality or wisdom, but rather on the ideological beliefs that Khamenei has propagated. How much did he succeed in realizing these projects, which he had been nurturing in his mind? Look, Khamenei's dream, in my opinion, had an apocalyptic vision, standing against globalism, like a delusional emperor not only of Iran, but of the Islamic world. And with this delusional stand against globalism and American imperialism, considering that he was killed in the very first minutes of the war, he didn't even realize that dream. However, apart from not fulfilling his dream of war with the United States, although the national media, the state broadcaster, or his supporters justify that Khamenei died a martyr, in reality, he did not reach his own dream of apocalyptic war. Aside from this, he had defined a vision in a 2025 Outlook document in which a prediction was made in 2005 about where Iran would stand in 20 years' time. Iran was supposed to be the leading power in science, technology, economy and culture in the region. Where is Iran standing now? Clearly, everyone knows that. Likewise, Iranian society was supposed to have a favorable situation in terms of employment and security. It is clear that this dream did not materialize, and even Khamenei's dream of destroying Israel has increasingly been sidelined in the region. Therefore, to summarize, none of these delusions reached their desired outcomes. Thank you, Mortaza Kazemian.